how's it going, everybody? Welcome to the last day of notes for the week. Again, I've been saying this about all my other classes. If you notice, I've been wearing the same thing in every video. It's because I record all these videos on one day for the class. In the other classes, so I recorded, American government one day, sociology one day, and then recorded African American studies a different day. Anyway, we're getting to day 3 here. This is our last day of notes. Again, make sure you're keeping up on the notes. Make sure you're keeping up on the vocab. If you haven't done vocab yet, make sure you get that done first. And obviously make sure you're doing the guided questions as we go. Well, the guided notes questions as you go as well. With that being said, also make sure you get your Admentum assignment done by Friday at 5 p.m. Again, 5 p.m. I've said that about a billion times in these past 3 videos. Okay, anyway, get into day 3. A couple things here. Number 1, define and name 3 non-material and 3 material elements that represent American culture to you. So, pause the video if you need to, kind of think about it. If not, I'm going to keep rolling on and explain these. So, American culture, to me, when I think of non-material things, so that means like, what do I think about American culture? Like, what does American culture value? Number 1, I think of freedom. Right? Mainly because I think of the Bill of Rights. We have our expressed freedoms that we're supposed to have. Liberty. This idea that, we have to have like a sense of pride in what we do, a sense of patriotism. And then 3, capitalism. So when I think of a non-material thing, it's also kind of like an ideology type deal. And capitalism is one of the things that comes to my mind because the United States is a firm believer in capitalism, basically meaning you can capitalize on your skill set and make as much money as you want to. So think everyone complains about Jeff Bezos, who's the CEO of Amazon. He thrives in capitalism because he has a skill set and he's developed his company and it makes millions and millions and millions and billions of dollars now. And people say that it's BS and that you should share the wealth. That's called socialism. Anyway, but 3 material things that I think of when I think of the United States: barbecue, so like ribs, things like that. Because I think of American food, I think of American culture, I think of barbecue food, because like that's the most American thing I can think of. Kentucky Fried Chicken, right? Fried chicken, huge in the United States, so everyone wants to eat these days. Nashville hot chicken originated in freaking Nashville. That's the United States. And I would say the last material thing, the American flag, basically because it's a material thing, right? It's an actual material. So when you think of material, it has to be something you can actually hold on to. It's a material thing because it represents the United States, number 1, but also represents, the 50 states, the 13 colonies, and our history. So that's the kind of the things I think of. Now, what did you guys think of? Really, you can think of whatever you want. But when we talk about non-material versus material things, non-material things are beliefs, ideas, and knowledge. So basically, things that you can't hold, okay? So beliefs, you could say Christianity is an American culture thing because it's really big in America. You could talk about capitalism like I did. Whereas material things are concrete, tangible objects within a culture, so have no use or meaning apart from the meaning people give them. So for example, the American flag would mean nothing in our culture if we didn't give it a meaning, Barbecue wouldn't mean anything unless we gave it meaning, other than it's, food to survive. But yeah, so that's pretty much it for that one. Next thing here, define and think of an example of real and ideal culture in your school. So real culture is the way it really is, and ideal culture is, the way it ideally should be. For example, for me, the ideal culture of a classroom is all the students come ready to learn with a pencil. The reality is I went through 500 pens and pencils and colored pencils in 3 quarters. So my ideal cultural existence of school is not my reality. It's not the way it is. But the concepts, the ideas of it is an ideal culture establishes a high standard, targets that most people attempt to reach most of the time. So I would believe, the ideal culture is everyone comes ready for school, comes with a pencil. The actual real deal. The actual behavior patterns often conflict with the ideal, right? My ideal culture is everyone comes with a pencil. The real aspect is no one comes with a pencil. So it conflicts with my idea, right? Here's my idea, here's reality, boom. Doesn't happen every time. Can't do anything about it. Make sure you watch the video, Louis C.K. There's a guided notes question about him, focusing on his idea of what he, what values seem to be at conflict in, his observation of, what is real culture versus ideal culture. So make sure you take a look at that. It's a great video. Provide an example of recent cultural discoveries, inventions, and diffusions. For me, this is kind of tough. When you think about discoveries, right? Discoveries, go to the next slide, we'll explain this. Discoveries are finding something that already exists. Discovery is finding something that already exists. Now you may think, well, that doesn't make sense if you're discovering it like you're finding it for the first time. Not necessarily. Discovering it is something that's already been there, and then you're finding it then. So for example, you discovered diamonds, right? The diamonds were already there, but you just finally discovered them. So for example, finding something that already exists, female athletes. You may think, well, female athletes have been around for a while. Exactly, but female athletes haven't been to this level, right? The WNBA wasn't a thing until a couple of years ago, where the regular NBA has been around for years and years and years and years. See what I'm saying? We finally discovered, female athletes, WNBA. Inventions, creation of something new. For example, people start having cell phones, right? And when you go to different places, like touring things, people start using selfie sticks so they can get a selfie with the thing. Whatever they're looking at. Selfie sticks weren't a thing. They were invented. They were created based off this idea that someone needed it. Simple. And finally, diffusion. So borrowing from other cultures. So diffusion is kind of interesting. It's not necessarily making something new or finding something new. It's taking something from someone else and then making it your own, or using it. For example, Chinese food, pizza, spaghetti. Those are all things that came from a different culture. Right? You think spaghetti, that's Italian. We took that from Italian culture. We took food and made it more American. Like Americans now use, like if you ask someone like what their favorite favorite food is, most people would say pizza. And pizza originated from a different culture. But now it's a big part of American culture. That's what diffusion is. Identify each of the following as a social category, subculture, or counterculture. Okay, 3 things here. Social category. So this would be like Catholics or females. So kind of think about like just people in general, right? You think about people, and then think about categories you could break them down into. You can break them down into being tall, short, or middle of the road kind of height. Like you'd be like, well, social category is if you're 6'5", you're tall. Okay. So social category, I fit into the tall category. Simple. It's just kind of the way the society, right? Social, the way we view things. Subculture needs to be different from dominant culture in some important respect, but still compatible. So for example here, think about like teenage culture. You think about teenagers, you think about, the culture of being a teenager is pretty simple, right? You're going to school, you're doing all these different things, but there's subcultures of them, right? You're all going through the same thing. You all have the same values, but, there's kind of the hippie kids who tend to wear, the more fluorescent, rainbow colored stuff. Or you have, the punk rocker kids who are wearing like the all black. And it's kind of more, a lot of times it's involved around music, right? Because it's a big part of our culture. But we have all these different ones, right? You have, you have the kids who ride bikes. You have kids who listen to country music and come in cowboy boots. They're all teenagers. You're all living the teenage lifestyle, the culture, but there's subcultures to it. There's athletes, and then there's non-athletes. There's mathletes, and there's people who are in band. Those are different subcultures of what a culture is, right? A school culture, or even the teenage culture in general. So for example here, you take a look at these pictures I got on here, there are different subcultures right there of just people. You have the emo kids, you have the hippie kids, you have the nerdy kids who wear, private school stuff, or wear button-ups and have like their, have their books. It's just different categories. There's just different cultures of it. So what cultural universals, what are cultural universals and why do they exist? So cultural universals are traits that exist in all cultures. For example, a big one, sports typically exist in all cultures. Oh, my bad. Go back. Forgot about counterculture. Counterculture is deliberately trying to be oppositional. So basically going against whatever someone else says. Example here, we can talk about gang violence, Bloods versus Crips. Complete opposites. They say they're opposites, right? But they're always going against each other. Like they're always doing something that's against what the culture is. Or, for example, in our culture, right? American culture, when you think of Christianity, we think of all this good stuff. Then you think of ISIS. That is the complete opposite of American culture, right? Because it's talking about terrorism, and you think of terrorism, you think of all these bad things that come along with it, and it's the direct opposite of what people want in America, right? That's why you hear so many negative things about people, saying ISIS this, ISIS that, because when we think of ISIS, we think of a terror organization that's focused on taking out multiple people. Anyway, cultural universals, getting back into that part. Traits that exist in all cultures. For example, here, sports, courtship, etiquette, funeral rites, joking, smiling, something that happens everywhere. But etiquette, right? So like, it happens everywhere. You want to be respectful. You want to be mindful of others and what they're doing and how they're doing things, how people eat. Like when you go to someone's house and they take off their shoes at the door, guess what you should be doing? Taking your shoes off the door, because you're showing proper etiquette. But sports is also a big one. Whether it doesn't necessarily mean that all sports are the same. For example, the most American sport is basketball. Well, not basketball, football, right? It's the only country that plays football. And I guess it's kind of expanding down to Canada and a little bit of Europe. But they're more club. Like when we talk about our sports, NFL is a big one. Where soccer is like huge in every other country. Now soccer is becoming bigger here, but soccer sells out, over 100,000 people every game abroad. Where in the United States, like we have small stadiums that fit maybe 20,000 people. That's just the way it is. But they exist because of biological similarities of all humans, allow a society to survive. Societies face many of the same problems. So, for example, when we think of cultures, you think of food. Everyone eats. You need food to eat. Well, you need food to eat so you can survive. So, really, you think about what we naturally need to survive, that typically factors into our culture. Again, if you guys got any questions for me, that's all we got for today. I know it's been kind of all over the place, but again, that's just the way it is, because I'm trying to make sure I get the most important things in and try to keep it short. So if you guys have questions, issues, concerns for me, make sure you come ask me on Google Classroom or through my email, or if you need a Zoom conference call, please let me know. With that being said, enjoy the rest of your week. Make sure tomorrow and Friday you get your minimum assignment done, and enjoy next week with your spring break, and make sure you come back the following Monday ready to get work going again, because it'll be exactly the same way it is right now. Have a great day. See you guys not next Monday, the following Monday. Peace.